Adam, welcome to the Talent Inside podcast.
Yeah, great. Thanks so much for having me. It's a real pleasure to be here.
No, it's awesome to have you, mate. And let's dive straight in. I'm curious to understand, and for the listeners, give us an overview of your kind of background, your journey, and how you got to being the co-founder of Poetry, where you are now.
Yeah, certainly. So I've been in recruitment since 1999. I made an active choice to go into recruitment because a friend of mine who was 2 years older left university and started in recruitment. And 2 years later, he was driving a Mercedes, and I thought that sounded pretty good to me. And that's what attracted me to this profession.
Yeah. That sounds a bit like my story as well. It's exactly the same.
Yeah, I mean, so I got the job and then had to work out what does recruitment mean and what actually is involved in the job. Anyway, I was okay at it. I was not bad. I spent 3 years recruiting accountants, and what I really enjoyed about it was like when the candidate said yes to coming in for a conversation about a job, when the customer said yes to me helping them to work on the job. You know, I loved the dopamine hit that you get from that. Yeah. What I didn't enjoy at all was the actually interviewing people and talking to them about their life, and I didn't really care, to be honest. I just wanted to make the money out of them. Okay. And that's just the truth. But what I did enjoy was all of the talent attraction, the marketing, the business development aspects of it. So after 3 years, I moved into a recruitment marketing agency, specializing in recruitment advertising, employer branding. I was on the digital task force. That's back between 2002 and 2004. So it was pretty early days of the internet, and we were building microsites for companies and, you know, effectively landing pages now is what you would really call it. Yeah. For campaigns. And so I got a fairly early interest in digital, really. And I moved into, I spent 3 years at PwC. I started as a business development manager in the tax and human resource services area, and then I became a consultant in the human resource services area for the last 2 years. Learned a lot. That was like an MBA, really, in 3 years. It wasn't the right environment for me, too many bosses, but I just treated it as a big learning experience, and I really loved it. And then I started my own company in 2009. That was a talent sourcing business. We would sell our time for surfing the internet, finding potential candidates for companies. We didn't charge any placement fees or anything like that. We just charged $6,000 every month to be on call to go and find people on LinkedIn, quite honestly.
Oh, wow. Okay.
It was pretty much what we did. And that was between 2009 and 2012. I sold that company to a London-based executive search firm, stock market listed company called Norman Broadbent PLC. I then spent 4 years on the operating board of that company. I really loved my time there, worked with some terrific people. And then in 2016, I left to start Candidate ID. Candidate ID was my first tech business. It was heavily inspired by mainstream marketing automation technology. It was Marketo for talent acquisition. And the reason it was different from like recruitment CRMs is its ability to be able to track and score candidate clicks and candidate interactions on the career site and on social media posts and things like that. And so we were able to allocate a real-time engagement score so that recruiters could stack rank their candidates not just on a best fit, but on a who's actually most likely to be interested in saying yes to a conversation right now. So it was a real breakthrough. We sold that company in 2022 to iCIMS, the world's #1 applicant tracking system business. 4,000 ATS customers in that business, and the intention, of course, was that they would sell it to their existing large customer base with their existing large sales teams. And that was the 10 months that I was there doing the handover. It was successful, and I believe it's been further successful. And the Candidate ID product or components of that are now part of the iCIMS candidate experience management system, which is an extremely comprehensive top middle of the funnel recruiting platform.
So is it packaged under their business now, is it?
Yeah.
Completely. Yeah. Okay.
It's part of one of the iSIMS products
Yeah.
now. Yeah. But when I left iSIMS, we'd built Candidate ID as Marketo for talent acquisition. And what occurred to me was there's no end of inspiration that we can take from mainstream sales and marketing, because I think the process is extremely similar. And sales and marketing is ahead of recruiting in terms of the processes and technologies that they use. And the reason for that is, quite simply, more money goes into it because it's a bigger addressable market. There's more people doing mainstream sales and marketing than there are doing recruiting. It's more of a total addressable market in terms of like revenue dollars, and so venture capitalists are attracted to it.
Yep.
But given it's so similar, I kind of look at it and go, why are we not taking more inspiration from this? So anyway, I did a lot of learning during the 6 months after leaving iSIMS about sales enablement technology, products like HighSpot. And what they do, for anybody listening to this who doesn't know about sales enablement technology, what it does is it allows specialist teams to create like workspaces of content assets and processes and policies and scripts and calculators and tools and research and props and all of the things that a salesperson needs to go from a first stage cold call outreach through to closing the deal and onboarding the customer. Salespeople need a lot of things. They're not just like, give me a phone and I'll do it. They need they need PowerPoint decks.
Yep.
They need a structure for a demo. They need objection handling responses. So I'm looking at this thinking, wow, this type of technology makes salespeople far more productive. What do we do in recruitment? What do we give them? Where do they store all their recruitment marketing assets and their talent intelligence and their policies and their processes and their Boolean strings and all of this type of thing? But not only was my question, where do they store all this stuff? It was, how do they build all of these things? Because like the best recruiters in the world are going to take time to develop talent intelligence and outreach messaging and Boolean strings and job adverts and interview questions. And most recruiters don't have the skills to be able to do all of those things and build all of those things. So, sales enablement technologies out there, HighSpot's out there. There's other sales enablement technologies which are helping salespeople to be more productive and successful. And I felt like in recruiting, we needed a real focus on this. So I did 6 months of focus groups to really understand what we're doing in talent acquisition and in RPO and in agency. And what I learned was around 30% of talent acquisition teams had recognized this issue and had developed some kind of processes and structure around this. Normally it was a SharePoint site, and like, here's the talent attraction hub is what they might call it. And on the talent attraction hub, there would be the approved logo, maybe a couple of approved images, and the approved boilerplate description of this is how we refer to the company, and probably some rules in there, right? But the problem was it's considered a bit of a black hole because people aren't trusting that it's not out of date. Also, it's not a great place for collaboration because it's really just here's where the templates are, rather than like, I want to know what Sarah's doing and what John's doing because they produce brilliant content and they're really great at their job. It's not really like that. It's a place to just go and download stuff.
Yep.
So some like tech companies were using Confluence or Notion or something like that to try and achieve the same. But again, really quite a static sort of repository kind of experience.
Yep.
So that's what I found and then probably 70% of companies were doing nothing much in this area. They gave their recruiters an ATS, a LinkedIn account, a telephone, and they tell them to get on with it and go and be entrepreneurial. And, some people can do that. Most people find that a little bit difficult. And therefore productivity is not as high as it could be.
Yep, 100% agree.
So the other thing that I learned was creating things. Most recruiters are not natural marketers. Some are very good marketers naturally. They're great writers. They're great on video, stuff like that. but most are not. They're really good at achieving influence with people and like verbal or oral communication more so than written communication. So, and the other thing is that recruiters, in-house recruiters in particular, I could take on 3 new recs every day, and today I'm taking on part-time receptionist, financial controller, and quantitative scientist. Right? I mean, I can't be an expert on all 3 of these. It just doesn't really happen. In something like Microsoft, where you've got a recruiter who all they do is quantitative scientists, or all they do is finance roles, or whatever, fine. But for most organizations, it's not like that.
No.
So what, combining all of this research, what we wanted to do was build a workspace which allowed recruiters to be able to manage all of the assets they need for all of these different things, and to be able to create new things as well. So if they needed new sets of interview questions for the quantitative scientist jobs, they needed new outreach message to treasury managers, they could go and develop that. We learned that if we were going to do this, it had to be a lot better than ChatGPT and Copilot. It had to be done on the basis that what it's producing is right first time. It's on brand. It's in context. So we built a workspace which has got lots and lots of admin settings so that every organization can really set up their own artificial intelligence environment. And then the recruiter, and from the recruiter's side, they click blue or they click green. They click left or they click right. It's not like lots of options. It's I click 3 things and I get everything I need in one go. So we wanted to make a user experience which was like incredibly easy to use. So I'm sorry, you asked one question and I just talked for ages.
That's awesome.
Does it resonate, the issues, like any questions or comments about the issues that I brought up? Because I've
that's perfect. I was just going to ask, so in terms of the target market, you could go into any industry and you could go into any size business. Is that correct?
Yeah, it is. I mean, we have really started with, so when you start, I've learned a lot in the 16 years that I've been building businesses. I've really refined my approach, and I'm certainly far from perfect, but a lot of the mistakes that I've made over the last 16 years, I'm not making again. That doesn't mean I'm not making different mistakes, but I'm not going to make the same mistakes again. And one of the mistakes that I've made in the past is building a product which is for everybody, right? And really positioning it as this is for recruitment agencies, and it's for talent acquisition teams, and it's for RPO, it's for blue collar, it's for white collar, it's for exec, it's for China, it's for USA, it's for Brazil, it's for everywhere, right? And unfortunately what happens is you scratch the surface everywhere. Just from a building your company perspective, you scratch the surface everywhere, you don't really make much traction anywhere, and it's almost lucky that you win customers, right? So what I have done this time is I've gone, right, let's get kind of more narrow on what's my network, who are the people that I know. They're UK, they're USA, they're talent acquisition in mid to large enterprise, and if I get a bit more specific on sectors, it's tech, healthcare, and professional services. They're the 3 areas, and they're the 3 areas because it's in-demand talent. Hiring tech talent is challenging. Hiring healthcare talent is challenging, and hiring consultants and auditors and tax people and corporate lawyers is not easy. So that's why they're the 3 sort of industries that I'm probably personally spending most time with. But there is a lot of value in a company enabling their recruiters in every industry so that they're in every size of company in every region of the world, because otherwise they're going to be wasting time.
Yeah, and it's not just in enabling the actual talent team either. It's actually the whole business, like from a hiring manager perspective, everyone that's in the process.
Yeah, so when we started on this journey around, I set up a YouTube channel called Recruiter Enablement, because I thought recruiter enablement, sales enablement, that's the equivalent. If it works for sales, it works for recruitment. So
Yeah.
we started with recruiter enablement. How do we enable our recruiters to be more productive and successful, to save time in developing interview questions and job adverts and social media posts and whatever. But you're absolutely right. So we have changed the positioning in terms of how we're describing our product. It's much more about hiring enablement, and we have done a lot around how do we enable hiring managers. So we do see that there is a future where there is more hiring manager self-service, where a hiring manager will load the rec in the HR system, and then 3 days later, interviews will start just going into their diary automatically. What this needs is it's not a full technology. You don't just set it up as a technology service and it happens. You need to continue. There needs to be expert recruitment professionals who are continuously monitoring the automation and the process and the performance and looking at the data and determining what's working, what's not working, and then tweaking the system. But I think it's going to be much more of a machine-led process in the years to come. For a lot of types of hiring. So enabling hiring managers is very much a place where we're going, and like the hiring team, if you like, which might be people who are currently doing the job, who will spend time with a potential candidate, just telling them about a day in the life, for them, and giving them what it's like. And so it's broader than just enabling recruiters.
Yeah, awesome. And that 6 months that you spent doing that research, the ones that 30% that were actually already had something in place for hiring enablement, what was there a trend in terms of what the good ones were doing? Like, was there, in terms of actually having something in place, was it just a case of, like you said, having a Confluence page or Notion page? Was there anything else that on top of that?
Yeah, I can tell you that the thing that they were all doing, which was really great, was that they had developed an awareness that they needed to put more procedures in place and enable their recruiters, right? Yeah. The SharePoint page is better than nothing, but it wasn't great. Yeah. And I look back now and I think, where we've got to with hiring enablement is light years ahead of where anybody was back then. But I do recall the one company that I spent some time with, where what they were doing was so great that they didn't need our technology. This was back at the beginning, really at the beginning of the Poetry days. But HelloFresh had made such brilliant use of the Google kind of workspace suites. Yeah. They back then, like at the beginning, Poetry was quite basic. But what they'd created was as good as what we'd created with Poetry from just the internal tools that they had access to that they could go and make use of. So for anybody that's thinking about hiring enablement, definitely go and check out what are the tools that we have access to already. And there probably are some good things that you can do with SharePoint. There are probably ways of connecting SharePoint and Copilot. It's not been built for that, but certainly what HelloFresh were doing with their Google pages was very good. Another one was Grab in Singapore. Martin Warren at Grab had done a really great job around developing like a hub, a hiring hub. And again, it was on Google. And that was a lot better than SharePoint in terms of, it just looked, to be honest, I don't know whether the functionality was an awful lot better, but it just looked a lot better, more appealing for the user. So yeah, the other thing is, when I started that 6 months of research, there was around 100 people globally whose job was recruitment enablement or hiring enablement or something like that. Today, like 2 years later, and there's over 400. So it's still not, a mainstream sort of job, but there's been a lot of growth as companies have really looked at actually how do we become more productive as a unit. And there's sales enablement. DevOps is effectively an enablement function within tech. And there are enablement people in a lot of white collar kind of business functions today, not just in recruitment and sales, but in others too.
Great.
Yeah.
And what do you think it's an area that is never kind of focused on as a business? Because, like I said, if I look at the companies I've worked in the past, it's always like we've got a folder for that. If there's a JD, go and have a look at that JD. Or it's never a focus for a business to be able to set up the recruitment team. Never mind the broader business in terms of hiring enablement. So why do you think it is that the companies are not kind of focused on that, and it is really a second thought?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's three reasons. The first reason is that in-house recruiting is a fairly modern discipline. I mean. Marketing goes back 50 years, finance goes back 100 years, whereas in-house recruiting goes back maybe 20 years. So that's one reason. We're not quite as mature as some other business functions. The second reason is, I think, because it's a smaller professional group than IT and finance and marketing and sales. It's not got as many eyeballs on it, and it's not got as much focus for that reason. It's just magnitude. But then there is a third one, and that is, I look at all the technologies. There's nobody really doing what we're doing in terms of what we've developed. There are some other recruitment enablement businesses out there. Shout out to TA Guru, for example, who does a great job of educating recruiters in what is this job really about, and what do they really need to know about this job when they take that job on. Shout out to Social Talent, who are doing all of the education around performance enhancement for recruiters, like how to really achieve influence and how to really do stakeholder management and how to all of those things that take you from good to brilliant. But there's nobody really done anything in this sort of workspace area like we have. And I look at nearly every other recruitment technology out there, and it's focused on candidates. It's all focused on candidate discovery, candidate engagement, candidate assessment. And I don't know why people haven't realized that 50% of what a recruiter does is not managing a candidate. It's all the other prep work and the background stuff and I've got to prep for that outreach, and I've got to prep for that marketing campaign, and I've got to prep for those interviews that are coming up, and I've got to prep for my hiring manager briefing. I mean, that's 50% of what a recruiter does, is those tasks. So one of the other reasons I think it's come into more stark focus for me is because we're now in a world where AI agents are starting to make an impact. A lot of us are using them and we don't really know we're using them. Right? There is a lot of snake oil in this world, and there's a lot of snake oil in recruitment in recruitment technology in general. We all know this. But when companies are looking to automate a lot of processes, right, and everybody is focused on candidate management, when in fact 50% of what a recruiter's tasks are is not candidate management, I think that I've got a big blue ocean of opportunity here. I think I've got a lot of white space is another way of describing it, where nobody's really targeting this kind of area. So that's one of the reasons I'm very excited about it, because there's a lot of opportunity for enhancement in this area.
Do you think, and I think we spoke about it initially when we had the initial conversation, is that do you think it's a part of it that it's a lack of education on when they bring in a talent person for the first time into the business? Typically, if they've got a chief people officer or a head of HR, or even the founder, it's like they're not aware of what those processes look like or what good looks like. Do you think there's an element of that, of like lack of education as well?
I mean, there is from every one of these personas. I mean, the chief people officer probably doesn't come from a recruitment background, so they're unlikely to know a lot about recruitment. And in some ways, I think it's right, and in some ways, I think it's wrong that recruitment is under HR, right? But it's very unlikely that they're probably more likely to have a generalist HR background, right? So are they going to really understand the nuances of recruitment, which is, to my mind, a sales and marketing function? Probably not. It's a very different type of thing. So are they going to be the ones that's pushing the recruiter, that first, talent acquisition consultant or whatever it is? Are they going to be the ones that's pushing that person to do things in a different way? No. That talent acquisition person has probably, they might have come from a recruitment agency environment, in which case their vision of what recruitment is actually fairly narrow. Because recruitment is, you and I have spoken about this, it's when you're in-house, there's a lot more tasks that you're responsible for than when you're an agency recruiter, which is I find the people, I present the shortlist, I negotiate the salary, and then the start date.
That's it.
But there's a lot more to it when you're in-house. So they may well come into the role without a perfect understanding of what all the other things are, and then even then, we're still in a scenario where talent acquisition leaders in mid to large companies with teams of 50 people, they've learnt their craft over the last 20 years, and the last 20 years is not what's setting them up for the next 20 years, but the mindset of how can we do this better in everything. That could be somebody who's straight out of university, or it could be somebody who's 30 years into their career. But the mindset of how can we do this better? What's broken in this? Because there's probably a lot. What could? It's not even that it's broken. People don't necessarily realize things are broken until they see a different way of doing things and go, "Hang on, that's a brilliant way of doing things." So I get.
It's interesting.
I gave you lots of. You asked me questions and I go off on a 10-minute response. Sorry. Man.
No, you give different scenarios. It was good. So in your mind, if you were to paint the perfect picture of what a good hiring enablement would look like in a business, what would that be? Where, or on the flip side to that, if it's something that they're considering, where's the best place to start in terms of what to look for?
Right. I mean, it's happening quite a lot. We've got customers who. They've got a talent acquisition team of 15 people. They've recognized that the team would be much more productive if they took somebody off of filling jobs and put them into enablement. And I've asked this a lot of times on my Recruiter Enablement YouTube channel. I've asked people, where's the best place to start? Best place to start is go and talk to all the stakeholders, talk to the recruiters, talk to the hiring managers, talk to the people in HR, find out from them what do they think works, what do they think not works, and then start to look outside of your organization for inspiration around how are other people doing things better. So listen to podcasts, read Recruiting Brain Food, get your inspiration from outside of your organization and possibly outside of your team as well. So if there's a sales enablement person in your organization, go and make friends with them and find out what's their mindset, how are they doing things. You have to have the mindset of there could be a better way for everything, for every single process. Break down every process. I remember about 6 or 7 years ago, somebody shared with me BT's recruitment process. So there was 72 steps. Right? I mean, most people, when they think about recruitment, they think there's probably 6 steps.
Yeah.
But they had 72 steps, and I looked at the spreadsheet of the steps, and I was like, "Yeah, I get. These are all individual things that have to happen."
Yep.
So go and break down every step, every process, and go deep into each. How do we do that? Why are we doing it like that? Is it a consistent process? Is it the best process?
And those steps that you're talking about with BT there, was that kind of going into the granular of if, say, for instance, there's someone leaves the business, the steps that it takes from getting, not even before sign off, like the ins and outs of every single step, not just the hiring process. It's the what happens before that and who's involved in that.
Yeah, absolutely,
Yeah,
absolutely.
okay. Just documents everything.
Yeah, absolutely. Document all of the procedures, and it is right through from somebody resigns through to somebody's been in role for 3 months and they've done their sort of probation, and they've completed their probation period or whatever it is, and there are so many different things, and a lot of them can be automated. A lot of them can. There's certain types of jobs where if I'm hiring a financial controller, I'm probably going to automate about 30% of that process. If I'm hiring warehouse people or drivers, I can probably automate. I could automate 100%. Whether it's appropriate to or not is a different matter, and that just depends. But I'm certainly going to be looking for 80% automation on a process for hiring, like in volume, call center, jobs, that type of thing. But yeah, there's. I would feel very excited if I was a recruiter. If I go back 20 years in my career, and I'd gone from being a recruiter to being a talent enablement person. To be honest, I didn't have the right mindset back then, but I probably wouldn't have done a great job of it. But technology's moved on and everything's moved on, and
100%.
Yeah, people are much better aware of now, I think, of processes and how you can automate things and how you can create better experiences. And of course, candidates is important as well. How do we enable the process for a candidate? That's another thing. Candidate experience is not just about the apply process. It's about
even that part of the process can be broken. It's like you still see an application where you submit a CV and then you still have to input your information on top of it. It's actually dragged through the CV wrong, and I won't mention any platforms, but there's a couple out there that would actually expect you to fill out the information twice, and it puts people off. Like that just experience itself is just an absolute nightmare.
Absolutely.
I've gone through that personal experience myself. It's not great. But in terms of how would you measure? So, say for instance, people started looking at it. So, I think actually, just going back there, I think you're absolutely right in terms of that hiring enablement and that role. And I think, especially now with the way AI is going, and I do think those kind of lower level roles where you basically recruiters are just putting bums on seats. I think that is where, like you mentioned there, for the roles where you're hiring warehouse or drivers, those types of roles where you can actually automate a lot of that process. And I think now is quite exciting times for people to actually embrace AI and looking at how that can really expand your role. And hiring enablement is a perfect example of that. I think that's it, like genius. I think there's not many businesses out there, as you said, probably 400 people on hiring enablement that you mentioned there. It's there's an opportunity there, and I see it especially on the because I work within more of the startup scaling space. Like even within those businesses now, I think there's an opportunity there for hiring enablement.
There's so many ways you could segment this. What does the recruitment team of the future look like, right? And there's definitely, there already are less people doing traditional recruitment jobs than there were this time last year and 2 years ago.
Yeah.
When I say traditional, I mean sourcing and interviewing, those types of tasks. Every major corporate, I don't know very many companies that have got a larger talent acquisition team than they had this time 2 years ago. However, they have typically created more varied and interesting jobs. There's going to be, I think, more focus on branding and experience design. There's going to be more focus on data analytics and intelligence, and there's going to be more focus on performance improvement and enablement.
Yep.
So there are going to be more interesting jobs, but I think if I was going to give advice to pretty much anybody working in talent acquisition, I would say if you're the sort of person that would describe yourself as, I'm a bit of a dinosaur when it comes to technology, or I'm a bit of a, you hear these people like casually describe themselves as a bit of a technophobe. That is a non-negotiable today. You can't be a
100%
dinosaur or a technophobe. It's not a thing. In almost any corporate job, it's no longer going to be a thing. You are accelerating the sunsetting of your own opportunities by accepting that that's okay, and it's just not okay today. So you need to have an open. You now need to have a mindset of, how do I make these processes better, faster, less expensive, more quality, better experience, whatever it might be.
Yeah.
You need to be continuously thinking about that, and you need to have a good understanding of what are the technology opportunities to do this. And you need to be putting your hand up and coming up with ideas and going to your manager and saying, and you need to get familiar with how to create business cases.
Yeah.
And you could do this as an individual contributor, recruiter, or you could do it as a talent acquisition manager. You could do it from any vantage point. But if you're the kind of person who comes up with ideas and they're good, and especially not just comes up with the ideas, but you can actually drive them forward by developing a business case, achieving influence internally, and really making an impact. Which sounds like a bit of a cliched way of describing things, but really today, I think if you're coming up with great ideas and you are doing the right things to try and drive them through, and you're getting nowhere, I'd be looking out for an opportunity to move into an organization which is going to embrace your new ideas and not suppress your new ideas.
Yeah. And do you find there's certain companies that are embracing it more so now with the conversations that you're having with Poetry?
Yeah, absolutely. Tech companies, healthcare companies, professional services, the three industries that I probably spend most time with. Yeah. The reason for that is because they are the most competitive hiring environments, and they're all full of in-demand talent. There's lots of players. Everybody wants to hire optometrists. Everybody in healthcare organizations want to hire optometrists. They want to hire phlebotomists. They want to hire doctors. They want to hire. Everybody in technology wants to hire AI and data science people, more so now than software. Traditional software engineers, for example. And then in professional services, everybody wants to hire people that have got there's like groups of skills where very, very high demand, cloud consulting and security and things like that. They're the organizations where there's more pressure from the business, as in the hiring managers, to do more. Therefore, they've probably got more focus, possibly more budget, possibly more people that are dedicated to performance enhancement. The more traditional a company is, the slower they're going to go. I just don't think there's a lot you can do about that. There's certain industries, certain types of financial services, regulated industries, government sector, where the gap between the companies that are operating at a very sophisticated level in talent acquisition and the organizations where they're really not, that is going to accelerate. That gap is going to really increase in the coming years.
It was big. I thought, in terms of the traditional kind of dinosaur industries that you mentioned there, that gap was big anyway. There was certain like scenarios that you hear of in the like you speak to a candidate who's gone through a process and you go, whoa, like they're still doing that. That was big anyway. So you imagine now, like with AI and other companies embracing it more so. It's going to, like I say, going to be massive. Gap's going to be huge.
Yeah, absolutely. And I still do regular focus groups to learn about like what, because we've developed a product that's got 28 solutions. We're covering a lot of different areas of talent acquisition, and we do lots of regular focus groups to really learn how are you guys going about dealing with this process, so that we can look at, can we enhance this solution, in some way. I mean, you can have people in focus groups who are engaged in a kind of discussion, and I know they don't understand what each other's saying.
Yeah.
Because one of them works for a very sophisticated talent acquisition team, and the other one works for and the other one who doesn't. They don't understand a word that person's saying. They don't understand what They don't understand what the words mean that they're saying.
Yeah. Yes, that's crazy. So in terms of the future, like over the next 2-3 years, where do you see hiring enablement headed? Like, what does the future look like in terms of where businesses will be headed now?
Well, I think it's going to grow. It is, as I mentioned, it was maybe 100 people this time 2 years ago. It's about 400 now. It's definitely going to continue to grow as more and more the majority starts to adopt the mindset of we need people focused on enablement. So I think there's going to be good. There's going to be good opportunities for recruiters that want to sort of take an interesting next step in their career to move into this.
Yeah.
I know of several people who have watched my videos in the Recruiter Enablement channel and have read some of the stuff that we've been putting out there and that other people have been putting out there, and have used that to go and create a new job for themselves internally. So yeah. I have helped to kind of accelerate the movement towards this. It's going to be quite a broad. I mean, it's going to be broad. Hiring enablement is going to be quite broad. It includes, to an extent, it's probably going to be. It's going to either include or be very much hand in glove with every part of recruitment, marketing, employer branding, talent sourcing, talent analytics. They're not necessarily going to fall under recruitment operations, TA ops. It's going to become more important. Talent acquisition teams are going to get smaller.
Yeah, that was my next question. Like, where do you see sort of talent acquisition moving to? Because I'd imagine if you had a business that was very much has gone head on with hiring enablement, the less there's a need for that talent middle person in between, because a lot of it, if you could automate a lot, or if you enable the business for the hiring manager to be doing a lot more directly themselves, like where do you see that sort of the major changes and happening and within the changes of talent acquisition, apart from obviously them moving into more of a hiring enablement type of role?
I mean, there's going to be less people doing traditional sourcing jobs and traditional interviewing jobs. These processes, not by my company, but by lots of other technology providers out there, and better processes put in place by the head of talent acquisition. A lot of these tasks, which are quite repetitive tasks, which don't really need humans to be involved in, they're going to disappear, and they're already disappearing. And so, let's not think, well, that team of 50 if there's going to be less people doing those things, it means that they've got more time to focus on qualitative things. I mean, some of them do, but that team of 50 is going to become a team of 40. It's not going to become a team.
And even
of
the broader business, even the broader business will reduce in headcount with kind of the future of AI. For what the articles you're reading and the podcasts that I'm listening to at the moment.
Yeah, it is. I mean, that finance team of 100 last year is not 100 people today. It's just not.
No.
That marketing team of 50 people last year is not 50 people today. It's just not. So. Yeah, it's not. This is not a specific kind of attack on talent acquisition. No. And actually, we've just developed a solution, which is the head of talent acquisition today. If you've got 10 or more years left in your career, and you are currently head of talent acquisition, you are going to have to start taking over responsibility for not just how do we get our jobs filled, but how do we get our tasks accomplished, right? Yeah. And so you're going to have to take responsibility for, when this job or this group of jobs comes up, do we fill them with direct replacements, Or should we be bringing in temporary talent? Should we be bringing in freelancers? Should we be outsourcing this? Or is there a tech solution that we should apply to this? What is the right way to go about getting the tasks done, not just what is the right way to fill the job? So we've just developed a solution within Poetry, which is, it's called Automation Potential. It's part of our research solution. And you can go within Poetry, you can research companies, you can research jobs, and you can research other elements of what I would call talent intelligence. So the automation potential is, I can put in a job, tax compliance consultant, and it'll come back and say, 2/3 of this job can be automated with technology, and here's the technology that'll do it. And this bit of the tasks does not need to be automated. It's a switch on, switch off. For some talent acquisition teams, that might be a bit aggressive, but for others, they know that they're going to have to do this, or if they don't do it, they're going to be reporting into a technology team. And I noticed that there are one or two companies where, Moderna, for example, where they've merged the tech and recruiting teams, or tech and HR, I think it is, because they've recognized that HR is really all about how do we get our tasks accomplished, and so is technology. So they've merged these together, and so if you're currently head of talent acquisition, you may end up working underneath a head of task completion, which could be a technologist, or you go and seize this ground now. So that's why we've created this additional research, so that for those recruitment teams who want to enable their recruiters with the rationale for, should I say to the hiring manager, actually, that job probably doesn't really need a direct replacement. What you should do is, you've got a team of 6 people doing that. You should put in this automation solution, and you should reduce that headcount from 6 to 4, or whatever it might be. If they don't provide that kind of talent advisory, tech's going to come in and do it for them.
And what sort of time frame do you think that will be? Like, just be the norm? Do you think next 5 years, 10 years?
Yeah, I think in certain types of companies, like in tech businesses, that's going to be the norm in a year. The talent acquisition team needs to actively present alternatives to hiring. And you look at Shopify and Klarna and some of these companies where the CEOs put out a statement inside the business saying any hiring needs to have gone through a process of determining, is there an AI solution instead of hiring for this job? And they've got a lot of flack for that. They've got a lot of negative feedback having put out that statement. But quite honestly, they're the brave ones who have just been first to do it. It's going to be the norm in 5 years. If it's not already the norm in big companies like banks and things like that, I'll be surprised. They're not going to want to go out and be first to tell the market that they're doing that. But the very biggest organizations will already either have a process in place that they're not shouting about, or they'll be working on what that process is.
Interesting. It's interesting times. But no, I've really enjoyed the conversation. Carry on, mate. Sorry.
Just one other thing I just wanted to say. What I don't know is, and what I'm intrigued about is, what does this all mean for recruitment consultancy, recruitment agency businesses? Are they actually going to grow in headcount because companies decide not to do any hiring for those hard to hire roles, and therefore recruitment agencies actually end up picking up more business and growing with the traditional model of the sourcing and interviewing and achieving influence? And I wonder if maybe they will grow. I might be wrong about that. I mean, they'll definitely be looking to automate things for sure. But what makes you think that, kind of from an agency perspective, that they would grow, and then the talent acquisition side would probably move into a kind of different role internally? Well, let's say I'm a tech scale-up. Let's say I'm a tech scale-up based in Sydney. There are 500 people in the company, and there's a talent team of 6 people.
Yep.
hiring 150 people each year, and it's in-demand talent, but it's jobs that I know how to fill. Like 80% of them are jobs that I know how to fill. If I'm going to put in processes which are going to automate a lot more of that hiring, it's only going to cover 80% of the jobs. 20% of the jobs are going to be the ones where I have to hire a treasury manager, and we're a tech company. We're only ever going to hire one person to do this job. Or I'm going to hire a demand generation consultant. It's not a core hire because our core hire is tech people. Are they actually going to... I mean, it happens today. A lot of talent acquisition teams, the ones that are the hard to hire jobs, they'll put it out to agencies, right? So because they just don't have time to work on that job. So the hiring manager is happy enough to pay, the fee to get that person, that job filled, because they need to roll out the red carpet. They need to go above and beyond. And the internal recruiter doesn't have time to put, a full week of their life into that one rec because they've got 40 recs.
Yeah. Okay.
So that's why I wonder if actually the recruitment agency model is going to...
more of a focus on those specialist roles rather than... Okay. I get it. Yeah, it's interesting. It's going to be interesting to see how it all plays out.
Yeah, it is. And, I've never been the sort of person that wants to start a business which is doing the same thing that lots of other businesses do. But I'm 48 and seeing my 50s. I really do think that I might start a recruitment agency.
No, awesome. No, I've really enjoyed the conversation today, Adam. It's been a pleasure. So for those listening, what's the best network to get a hold of you on? If they want to reach out, if they've got any questions or even further questions regarding poetry, what's the best way to get them?
So if you want to contact me, just find me on LinkedIn, Adam Gordon Poetry, you'll find me. And for anybody that's interested in testing poetry out, then just go to PoetryHR.com and sign up for a free 14-day trial. We'll get a notification that you've signed up, and we'll probably reach out to you and ask you if you want a guided tour or you want us to show you how to do some things. It's all self-service and it's really easy to use, but in terms of the knowledge that we've built up around how other organizations are getting success from this, then really happy to talk. And just more generally, if anybody wants to talk about hiring enablement and what's the best place to get started and that type of thing, I'm always open to having conversations with people and giving them my knowledge from the research that I've developed. I've put thousands of hours into this over the last 2 years, and it's a subject that I've really enjoyed learning more about. No,
that's awesome. Well, thank you, and I'll be tapping you up myself. But thank you for your time, mate. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, great. I've really appreciated the opportunity to come and talk to you today.